What up, gangsters? So I wanted to give a real quick update for those of you that are following along on the saga of this engine rebuild, because it is going to come to an end here. We had to come to a conclusive decision because this truck's been sitting in my garage now for almost a month, and I have to, I've been holding off some other things like some transmission swaps and stuff I have to do for this truck, figuring it would be done by now. And so ultimately we had to kind of come to a conclusive decision. What we have decided is it is going to be in the customer's best interest to hold off on this project. We're going to tow the truck, put it into storage, and the customer will try to save up enough money that we can do this engine rebuild correctly. Unfortunately, in my opinion, this is going to include the machine shop doing the rebuild for me, because they offer a much better warranty offer if they do the rebuild. It's something I should have brought up actually in previous videos in this series, is the fact that while of course you will save a ton of money if you do all the rebuild work yourself, generally it won't be covered under a warranty with the machine shop, because you've got too many, variables, too many hands in the mix, which actually for most people is going to be a good thing. Part of this was to show you what is involved in the decision when you have a catastrophic failure. One of your options is, of course, an engine rebuild. I wanted to show what is involved in that, as well as how to help make decisions with it. For most people that have commented and emailed me, they have concluded, as most people would, that this is not usually a viable option, and that was shown. But at the same time, what wasn't shown is the rebuild, which is actually far more involved than the teardown and inspection was. And it was pretty meticulous in that teardown. You have to keep everything in order. You have to keep the relationships and orientations in order. With the rebuild, it's much more involved than that. Just even the piston rings. You have dozens of piston rings that you have to assemble in a certain order, and they all have their locations, and they have a top side and a bottom side, and the gaps in the rings have to be in certain positions. The attention to detail is rather phenomenal, actually, and it's much more involved than even the teardown process by far. And it's kind of unfortunate I didn't get to example that, but trust me, it definitely is. So what I want to do is just kind of, again, sum up where we are at with the truck, where we'll go, and then I'm going to offer a challenge to some of you guys. That's where we're at right now. Where we're going to go, obviously, if the machine shop is going to rebuild the engine, then there's no point in continuing this series. At some point, if I do another rebuild, I will just show the rebuilding part, since I've already covered the teardown and inspection, which was, again, one of the main points to help you to financially assess this as an option. And I think this series does successfully do that. Then as far as a challenge for some of you guys, I am actually well aware that probably 95% of the people who watch this, as well as a lot of my other videos and a lot of the involved videos with engine swaps and things like that, actually have seldom done more than change their own oil and spark plugs and maybe an alternator or something. And not that I'm knocking that. We all started somewhere, and it's great. But what I'm challenging you to do is, if you're watching these kind of videos because this is something that you would like to do someday or like to learn how to do it. Get yourself a $500 car off of Craigslist that doesn't even run. It'll cost you $50 probably to tow it to your house, and just do this. Rebuild the engine. Take it out of the car, rent some equipment, maybe even buy some tools if you plan on doing this as a hobby. This is exactly how I got started. Just being self-taught, actually doing it. Quit reading the books, quit watching the videos, and just do it. And I mean that in a very positive, constructive manner. If you do that, there's a few things that will happen. First of all, like any education, it will cost you some money. But keep in mind, your worst case scenario, any junkyard is going to come by for free and tow that piece of crap out of your garage, whether it's running or not, whatever the condition is, and they will actually pay you probably around $300 for the scrap metal. So you will actually make more than half of that money back. So really, for a $250 investment, you can actually get the experience of doing something like this. But I encourage you, when you do it, don't just be like a monkey taking off bolts. Any monkey can do that. Have your Haynes manual there, or whatever your resource is, and instead of taking off this thingamajig or that thingamerbob, look at what it is, know the name for it, and most importantly, understand what it does. And do that with every single part that you're removing from the engine or unplugging from the engine. If you do that, you will find a number of benefits, not the least of which, the first one, you will finally have a true understanding of the operation of an engine if you do that. When you actually turn an engine over by hand and you see the push rods moving the valves and all that, and you see how it's timed with the crankshaft and the camshaft, it all makes sense to you. And then you'll understand why there's these controls for the air and the air temperature and things like that. It'll all be much easier to understand. It's something you just really cannot learn by watching any number of videos and books. Another thing that'll happen, you will find that your fluidity is going to increase. That is, you will be able to work on pretty much any car, because if you understand, as I always say, the theories and the dynamics, you can apply this to any car. Very often I'm asked, I loved your video on the IAT sensor or on this or that. Can you do it on a Honda Odyssey? Can you do a video on a Grand Am? No, because as I've said, it doesn't matter. When you understand the concepts, which is something you can only learn by actually doing this, you will find that any car is going to be pretty much the same. The locations of the parts may be different, the appearances may be different, sometimes the theory of operation is a little bit different, but in general, you will be able to go to any car and you will be able to find the throttle position sensor, because you know it is going to have to be connected to the butterfly in the throttle, because you know how it works and you know what it does. There is no other possible way that there could be a throttle position sensor without that function, so it will help you. It's like finding a bathroom in a big building. You know it's going to be somewhere along the walls next to a water fountain, most likely, right? It's very much the same. It does not matter what automobile. You will also be able to improve your diagnostic ability. Any monkey can look at an engine and go, well, I think it needs a idle air control motor, and you go to AutoZone, you buy an idle air control motor, and you hunt around all over the engine looking for this thing that looks like what's in your hand. There is no skill in that. The skill is in knowing 100% you need an idle air control motor. Changing it is never the issue when you get to a better level of understanding how to diagnose cars and how they work, and having the experience of doing it, which you will never get from a book. When you change an engine out of a car, or you remove an engine and rebuild it and put it back in, replacing an alternator, replacing an intake manifold, they just become tasks that you do in a job. They do not become your whole weekend, and you are doing them with a purpose, because it is part of your repair, part of your diagnosis maybe even, but it's not just something you're doing on a guess and you're just grabbing a wrench like a monkey and just going nuts. So I'm going to encourage you, now is the time to maybe do that. There's plenty of summertime left at the time of the release of this video. Get yourself a car, go ahead, apply yourself to this stuff, and I mean this in the most positive, constructive manner. I really do. This is how you are going to learn. You are not going to learn how to rebuild an engine watching this video series. You are not going to learn how to diagnose an IAT sensor watching me use a scan tool. You will learn it when you actually do it yourself. So go ahead, do that. Let me know how it goes if you do. And I am here to support you. But as far as for this video series, this is going to be the end of it. If there is a part 7, it will have to be with another engine, but hopefully someday I will cover the rebuilding aspect of an engine just to complete the series. But in the next coming weeks, I should have some more good diagnostic videos, which is kind of more the norm for this channel, and I look forward to that, and I hope you do too. So thanks for hanging with me for the series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Take care.